Welcome to Geo College Radio. I'm Miles King, joined by Jordan Linderman as always. How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Miles?
Doing pretty well today. Also this week, you all heard him earlier in the week doing our review pod, but we're glad to have Luke Ginder back on the pod again as our guest game picker for the week. How you doing today, Luke?
Doing pretty good. Glad to be here, guys.
All right, everybody, let's get this thing started. First game we're going to look at this week, the battle for the Golden Boot, LSU versus Arkansas. Coach O versus Brett Bielema, two very large men showing off in this game. Who do you think is going to come out on top, Jordan? And what do you think are the keys to this game?
Miles, this is going to be a really great game. After last week, I think I'm starting to think that Auburn game really was a fluke. Just because of the complete turnaround. Either that was a fluke or the Florida game was a fluke. And I guess this game will help determine which one was. But there's something about this Arkansas team, and I said it in the other podcast, but there's something about this Arkansas team in November that nobody wants to play them whenever this time of year comes around. And, of course, LSU draws us in November every year. And we've dominated them in recent years, whether it was a 17-0 win, which was our first SEC win under Bielema, or just utter dominance in the past couple of years as well. This is looking pretty good for the Razorbacks, especially after one of the worst offensive showings of the year that LSU had against the Crimson Tide. This game is a lot bigger for the Razorbacks than it looks. If they get past the Tigers here, it looks like it's going to be smooth sailing for the rest of the season. And that means a possible 10-win season pending a bowl victory. So this game is huge for the Razorbacks. Of course, all they have to do is get to 9 wins this season, and they continue their steady improving year by year under Coach B. But I see the Razorbacks walking away with the victory after this game at home. I think LSU's defense is great, but we just played against one of the best defenses in the country, let alone one of the best defenses in the SEC in Florida. And we were able to create big holes for our running backs. And Island was able to have a decent game. So I'm predicting a win for the Hogs and 9 wins going into the bowl game.
All right, bold prediction. It does always seem like no matter how up or down the Hogs are, they always pull out a good game against LSU. Even in years where LSU is heavily favored, the Hogs always seem to somehow pull out a great performance against LSU. I think they'll continue that trend. I think if they come out and play against like they did against LSU or against Florida rather, the Tigers could be in for a long day. Like you said, their offense it's not good. If you load up and stop the run and force Danny Etling to throw the ball, it's going to be a long day for LSU. Forcing him to sit back in the pocket and make good decisions, make good throws, I'm not sure he's capable of that. So if I was Arkansas, I would just stack the box, 7 or 8 people every single play, make Danny Etling beat you with his arm. But I'm also gonna have to pick the Hogs in this one.
And it's an absolutely disgusting line. They have LSU by 7.5 at Arkansas. Just huge disrespect to the Hogs. When these are two teams that have the same number of losses, and the Razorbacks have one more win. So, and Arkansas played a TCU team that all of a sudden looks like they could be pretty good. And they're probably a middle-of-the-road team in the Big 12. But LSU, they didn't play a whole lot of great teams and win. They've beaten Jacksonville State, Mississippi State, Missouri, Southern Miss, and then they beat Ole Miss. So 4 of those teams are some of the worst teams in the country. And then Ole Miss, who is hot or cold, this will be their first chance to beat a team that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. LSU really, like you said, the quality of their opposition hasn't been so great this far. They played Alabama tough, but it's going to be Coach O's first big chance to get a win against a quality opponent. Luke, how do you see this one shaking out?
I'm going to roll with Pick Suey at home on this one. I think they have enough of an offense to score more points than LSU with their terrible offense. So, and that's the name of the game. So I'm going to roll with Arkansas on this one.
Good pick.
Good pick. Good pick. All right, moving on to the next game. OSU's last home game of the season is going to be senior night in Stillwater as the Red Raiders make the trip up to Boone Pickens Stadium in a Big 12 conference game. This one's going to be, I think OSU should win. They should win. Doesn't mean they're going to. But the Texas Tech defense is just so awful. Always one of the worst in the country. Other defenses have shown the last couple weeks, TCU, and even though TCU lost, they showed how to slow them down. Texas put a lid on them, only let them score 37, which is pretty low for a Red Raider offense after they have been putting up 50-plus points at home consistently.
Pretty low for a Texas defense, too.
That's true. But I think the Cowboys, Boone Pickens Stadium's going to be rocking. They control their own destiny in the Big 12 now. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I think both of these defenses have posted pretty awful numbers, giving up 444 yards and 534 yards each. That's Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, respectively. Both these defenses have been don't break, and that's exactly what you need against a Texas Tech team that whenever you play them, your defense is going to bend, but Oklahoma State doesn't break every time, and so that I think they're able to get some key stops. Mason Rudolph is going to continue his incredible season, just very, very minimal mistakes and a lot of touchdowns. And then, of course, for me, the difference maker in this game is going to be Justice Hill and Chris Carson getting the running game going again. I think they'll rush for total rushing will be over 300 yards in this game. I think they're going to exercise them greatly. And I would estimate Oklahoma State having 700 yards of offense by the end of this game.
It wouldn't be too surprising because the possessions are going to be aplenty in this game. You touched on it before. I was just about to say I think the offensive running game of the Cowboys is really going to shine. They really figured out like their 1-2 punch with Justice Hill and Chris Carson. Both of them had really good games. Carson, especially after coming back from injury, this is the best he looked in a Cowboy uniform in his career. He was running for almost 10 yards a carry. He scored the game-winning touchdown carrying a Kansas State defender into the end zone with him. I think he's going to be hungry to duplicate that performance. And I think just whenever the Tech defenders are getting used to grasping at thin air as Justice Hill shimmies by them, they're going to get bulldozed by Chris Carson. I don't know if I'm going to go out on a limb and say 300 yards, but I definitely think it's going to be more of a ground attack by the Cowboys than many people are going to be expecting. But Jordan, let's hear your pick for this game. Who are you offering up?
Yeah, I've got Oklahoma State. I'll say Oklahoma State by 17. I think they get enough stops, at least enough stops, keeping them out of the end zone. Maybe they give up a few field goals. Of course, Texas Tech will score. Both teams will score a lot, but I think Oklahoma State gets a couple of field goals out of Texas Tech, and they end up winning by 17.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think the Pokes win on senior. I guess it's not senior night, so it's not a night game. By the way, the first time, I believe, since lights have been put on at Lewis Field, or since like the mid-'80s or something, where OSU has not had a home night game in a season. Pretty incredible. Just a miscellaneous note there. But on senior day, I think the Pokes roll. I think they win by 20+. Mahomes has an off day, and the Cowboys capitalize on a lot of Texas Tech mistakes. Luke, what do you think?
I honestly think the score could be 77-70. I don't think it will be. I think OSU make a couple stops, big plays on defense, and they'll hold on, win by a touchdown or two.
All right, let's talk about a big game in Norman this week as the Baylor Bears travel to face Oklahoma Sooners. A big-time Big 12 matchup for both teams' Big 12 title hopes. OU hopes to stay undefeated in the conference so far, and if Baylor loses this game, they're all but eliminated from the title race. Baylor, the last time they were in Norman, just put a walloping on the Sooners. They blew them out. But do you see this happening again this year, Jordan?
I think Oklahoma is going to wallop Baylor this year. I don't think it'll be very close. And I'm calling a lot of games that aren't going to be very close, but if you look at Baylor's non-conference schedule, they just did not play anyone. And then they got to Oklahoma State, and they were able to sneak one out that they really shouldn't have had. And then they beat the two worst teams in the Big 12. They start to get to the middle of the pack, and they lose to a Texas and TCU team. Now they're playing the team at the top of the conference. And it's going to be very tough for them to be expected to come in and beat the Sooners. And I think Oklahoma proves that they deserve to be at the top of the table at this point, and they beat Baylor at home. But an interesting side note: both of these teams have been awful against the spread. With Baylor at 3-5 and OU at 2-7. So maybe it's not as big of an upset as I think it will be. But I would have to say at this point in time, I think OU wins by a fairly significant margin. I could say for sure that they'll win, but I think they'll win by a significant margin.
I think I'll have to go with you on this one. Baylor just has not looked good the last couple weeks against Texas and TCU. If they put up more of a fight in both of those games, they did against Texas, but just got the doors blown off them against TCU. I may have been tempted to pick them because their season is on the line at this point. But it seems like whenever they face adversity, they just roll over. And I think that's what they're going to do again. I think OU gets them down early. Baylor, I think Baylor, to their credit, will make it a closer game than people are expecting. I think the offense will show up for this one, but in the end, I think OU's going to outscore them, and I see the Sooners walking home with the victory. What do you think from this one, Luke?
I'm actually going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go with Baylor. I think that I think OU will be looking forward to their schedule. They got a big game, Bedlam, in 3 weeks, and then they got a big game next week against West Virginia. So I think they're going to come out flat, an 11 o'clock game start, and I think they're going to lose to Baylor this week.
That's a good call because usually the team that's favored at home in an 11 o'clock game, that's a perfect recipe for an upset. So that's what we had a good first guess picker. This is very educated guessing.
Throwing down the picks right now.
Appreciate that.
That will definitely be an interesting game, though. I almost makes me want to throw up to say it, but I almost will be cheering for the Sooners this week just because of how disgusting Baylor has handled their football program, and with their scandal and their inability to do anything right. So I will reluctantly be cheering for the Sooners this week. Please don't make me do this again, but it's just a 1 week deal. Let's go on to the Fighting Illini face number 8 Wisconsin. Illinois needs to win this game to keep a chance to remain bowl eligible. Luke, you're the Illinois expert. How do you see this one going? Do they have a chance at the upset over number 8 Wisconsin?
My heart is telling me they do. My brain is telling me they do not. I just don't see they're playing mostly freshmen and sophomores and a few juniors sprinkled in here and there. Third string quarterback on the road against a top 10 Wisconsin team. I don't see them having any chance, but I'll be rooting for them hard, and it'd be something really special if they did. Coach Lovie Smith said during his press conference that what a big chance for a young football team, and he's right. They do have a big chance, but I don't see it happening. I'm gonna go with Wisconsin about 28 points.
Wow, so Wisconsin big. Unfortunately, I have to agree with you. I don't know how healthy Illinois' starting quarterbacks are going to be for this game. If they're out again, they were able to deal without them against Michigan State. I don't think so against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's got too good of a defense. I see Wisconsin cruising in this one.
Yeah, I have to agree. And these are two of the most balanced offenses in the country. But Wisconsin's they're just a bigger power. And Illinois' balance, while they are balanced, they aren't high-producing balance. So I think Wisconsin cruises here, like you said, Miles. And Lucas, I'm on your side. I'm going to be rooting for the Illini, but I just don't see it happening. I'm going to have to chalk this one up to the Badgers.
All right, last game of the week we're going to preview here. Our West Coast special, USC versus Washington. Washington has been dominant in every game so far, blowing out opponents. They have the largest margin of victory, largest margin of victory of any team in the country so far this year. USC, though, after starting 1-3, they've really come back. They now stand at 6-3. They've qualified for a bowl game. They could realistically be in contention for a Pac-12 South title here. So, what do you think? Does Washington continue the roll, or do the Trojans get a huge upset in Seattle this week?
God, there is no way that USC is going to win this game. It's not even going to be close. I don't understand why Game Day picked this one to go to. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You have a quarterback in Jake Browning that's clicking on all cylinders, one of the most mistake-free quarterbacks, one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country. He's had 220 pass attempts and 34 touchdowns, 149 completions and 34 touchdowns. And then you have Myles Gaskin, who, of course, he's flying under the radar, but he's one of the best backs in the Pac-12 by easily. I just don't see this one being close. I think the spread is way too narrow, and Washington's going to walk all over USC. I think USC is going to walk out with their tail between their legs, embarrassed. Sure, they've won the last 5 games, but they've played Oregon and Arizona State and Cal, and then a good Colorado team. But gosh, I don't see this happening at all. No way.
I do think Washington will pull out the victory here. I'd agree with you. I don't understand why College Game Day is going to this game. Seems like you could find a better game than Washington versus an unranked USC team. But I think they'll keep it closer. I still think Washington will win by 10-plus points, but USC will be fired up for this game. They're going to try to make a statement. Clay Helton is going to try to show that he's the right man for the job. I think he'll have his guys fired up to play, but I think they'll come up short eventually. Luke, what's the pick?
I'll tell you why. This is a hot take. Why they are picking USC and Washington for their big game. It's because ESPN always tries to push their Pac-12 and SEC agenda on everyone else. So that's why the game is on. For the actual game, I'm going to roll with Washington. They're going to show they deserve to be in the top 4 before this week, and they'll continue winning. So.
Wow.
That was a hot take, and I would dispute that, but that's for another day.
I can't disagree with it. You can't disagree with the man.
Well, I can disagree with the man, and I do, but
fair enough.
Yes. To each his own.
So, resoundingly, everybody picking Washington to win this game. Let's go on to our new segment, our upset pick special of the week. Luke, you're our guest for this week. I'll let you go first. What kind of upset do you feel brewing this weekend?
I'm going to go with my Big Ten pick here. I'm going to go, not with Illinois. We already picked that game, but I'm going to go with Iowa over number 3 Michigan. I just see it's a night game in Kinnick Stadium. I think Iowa's crowd's going to be rowdy, and they have decent talent on that team, and I think they're going to put up a fight, and I think they're going to beat Michigan.
Wow, Jordan, he's coming after your Michigan boys there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no chance. Ever since Kirk Ferentz got that contract guaranteed every time he wins 6 games, he's pretty, or 7 games.
Give him some credit. It is 7 games where he gets another year of guaranteed money on his 10-year contract extension.
He's completely checked out. He can check out for the next 9 years and then decide to win 7 games and get an extension. So I don't think he's focused. I don't think this Iowa team has the players that Michigan does. I admire you for the pick, and if it happens, all power to you. But I've got Michigan big in that one.
All right, Jordan, let's hear your upset pick. What do you feel coming this week?
Now, I don't think this is as hot of a take. It's a pretty hot take, and it'd shake up a lot. I've got Pittsburgh over Clemson. at Clemson. This is a team, you had an NC State team that is built very similarly to this Pittsburgh team, and they really should have beat Clemson at Clemson. And so I think this is part 2 of the of that game, and you're going to see a Pittsburgh team march in, steal a victory, and Clemson possibly get knocked out of playoff contention.
Wow, that is an upset pick indeed. For myself, I'm going to have to go with the Wake Forest Demon Deacons over the Louisville Cardinals.
Wow.
I think
oh my gosh.
Wake Forest. This is the second time I've picked Louisville to be upset, but I'm feeling that this week is the week. Yes, they may have lost against Army 2 weeks ago. Yes, they may have been beaten by North Carolina State, but they have dominating wins over foes like Tulane, which they beat 7-3, the University of Delaware 38-21. Very impressive victories. I think Lamar Jackson gets exposed.
Oh my Lord!
I'm just kidding.
Okay, Miles, I was like, I remember in week 3 you apologized to Lamar Jackson for picking against him. You're going to go against him again?
I am gonna go against him. I'm hoping he has a bad day.
Oh, you are going against him.
Yeah,
I thought you were joking. Oh, okay.
No, I am going for Wake Forest. Wow. It's the pick that nobody saw coming, the upset that nobody's going to see coming.
Goodness gracious.
Let's say it that way.
So you're saying right now that whenever I put this game on the list of games that we pick, you are going to pick Wake Forest to beat Louisville?
No, I was going to pick Pittsburgh over Clemson, but you took that one from me, so I went to my backup option.
Oh, you really were?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Great minds think alike. So if you're listening to this podcast before the game, definitely bet on that Pittsburgh victory happening. It's a sure deal.
All right, now we've completed our preview for next week. Let's get to our listener questions. The first one comes from Matt Beth Linderman. She asks, can Arkansas stop Leonard Fournette and LSU this week? Jordan, of course, you're the Arkansas guru on this panel. Do you foresee them being able to stop Fournette and the LSU rushing attack?
Yeah, so let's just look at Leonard Fournette over the years against Arkansas. His first year in 2014, does anybody want to take a guess at how he did?
I do not know.
All right, good. So he had 5.
Do you need me to look that up real quick?
No. I have it. Don't worry. He had 5 rushing attempts for 9 yards in that game. That's all he had. He's completely shut down. And I don't know why. I don't remember why they didn't give him the ball more. He wasn't injured. But 5 rushes for 9 yards is pretty awful. And then the following year, flash forward to 2015, only 19 carries for 91 yards. So there's something about this Arkansas defense, like I said, in November, playing against Leonard Fournette. I don't think Fournette's going to have a big game. Maybe Travion Geis comes in and he has a big game, the backup, but the change of pace guy. But I don't think Fournette is able to run over our defense. I think the defensive line's got their swagger back, and Beth Linderman, was that?
Yes.
Yes. I would have to tell Beth that I don't think Fournette, if he does go over 100, it's just a smidgen over 100, but it would be on a large amount of carries. And I think I actually talked to Jamichael Winston and Dietrich Wise after the football game. I went to a place that was kind of like Buffalo Wild Wings called Foghorns. And I got very good wings, by the way. I'm a big fan of Foghorns now. But they came in and I was telling them, hey, you guys had a great game. Get ready for Leonard. Like, we know you're ready, but like, get ready because please, like, we want to beat him. And they're like, oh, we got him. Like, don't worry. So I hope I didn't just give LSU bulletin board material because I know they listen to our podcast. But
yeah, I think Leonard, sorry to offend you if you're listening. We still think you're quality. We just think you're going to get shut down.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's absolutely the attitude you want to have from your team, feeling like they're more than capable of shutting him down, which they have been in recent years. Now, let's go on to our second listener question. This one is two parts. First one, this is from @JimLinderman. He asks, what are the three coaches on the hottest seats this year right now? So, Luke, I'll let you start off on this one.
I got Charlie Strong at Texas. He's 5-4, 3-3 in conference. He's got a ranked West Virginia team next, and then a winnable game against Kansas, and then a tough game against TCU. I just don't think Texas football is happy with what he's been producing over the last couple of years. It seems like he just gets that one win that saves his job for another year. And I think this is kind of the year where he doesn't really have that late. If he beats West Virginia, most Texas fans and boosters are thinking, well, you should beat West Virginia every year. So that's not going to save his job. Next, I have Clay Helton, USC's coach. They are 6-3, 5-2 in conference. But they got a pretty rough schedule up. They got Washington, top 5, undefeated, blow teams out. So that's probably an L. Then they got UCLA, which will never be easy, a big-time rivalry between the two teams. And then Notre Dame, which is also a big rivalry. So I see them honestly finishing 6-6. And that's another thing like with Texas, that's just something that's not acceptable in USC tradition. They're not okay with going 6-6 and just getting a bowl game. They got to be going 10-2 and competing for a national championship. I got Darrell Hazel with my third. He's 3-6, 1-5 in the conference. His one big win was over the Illinois University, so that might save his job alone. His next 3 games are against Northwestern, Wisconsin, a top 10 team, and then Indiana. Maybe get 1 win out of that 3, which would put them at 4-8, and that's not what they want. That's not where they want to be. So I see him also getting the axe.
All right, good candidates for sure. With the Purdue coach as a surprise pick, but of course the Big Ten expert. You have your finger on the pulse much more than we do there. Jordan, I'm going to say mine before you this time, so you don't steal any of my choices like you did last time. But at number 3 on my list, I have Rich Rodriguez, head coach of the University of Arizona. They're currently sitting at 2-7. They've had an abysmal season, inexcusable, just not even able to compete with some of these teams. I think he is definitely out after this year. At number 2, I have Mark Helfrich for the University of Oregon. They're currently sitting at 3-6. They've got a must-win against Stanford this week in Eugene. If they lose that one, they're not going bowling, which is also insane considering they were in the national title game just 2 years ago. I think he'll definitely be out. Fun fact, whenever Oregon fires Mark Helfrich, it'll be the first time they've actually fired a coach since the late 70s, 1976 or 77, I believe. They have not fired a coach since the 70s. And at number 1, I have Brian Kelly, head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They're sitting at 3-6 right now. They have a must-win against Army this week, I believe, which is a very losable game for them. They're more than capable of losing that, and for some reason, this game is being played in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, a week after they played Navy in Jacksonville. Neither site has anywhere close to any of the participating teams. It's kind of strange, but I see him losing this week. Notre Dame's not going to go bowling. He's going to get fired, just like his defensive coordinator Brian Van Gorder got fired earlier in the year.
Wow. Well, Miles, you took my exact top 3 in order. So thanks for that. I guess since you took those exactly, I will throw out 3 that you might not have thought of, but and they're coaches that aren't at the more prestigious universities, but they are coaches that are definitely on the hot seat with their fan base. So coming in at number 3, I've got Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech. They've been successful in the past, but this year they really have not been able to do anything with a very experienced quarterback in Justin Thomas. They're barely getting to bowl games year in and year out. really, if you're in a Power 5 conference, especially one like the ACC that is very balanced offensively and defensively, you can't just run the triple option and expect to be a contender every year. And so I think they bring in a new coach and they might have a completely new face on the program, both coach-wise and scheme-wise. So Paul Johnson comes in at number 3 for me. And number 2, this is one that a lot of people probably didn't think of, but Steve Adazio, the head coach at Boston College, last year, both the basketball team and the football team, it was the first time ever that both had never won a conference game in the same season, or both had not won a conference game in the same season.
That is a pretty stunning statistic right there.
Yeah, and this year, Adazio won 1, but I don't see him winning anymore. Maybe he sneaks one out late in the season, but I really don't see it happening. He has a UConn team that he could do it to, but again, this is a bad Boston College team. They haven't been good since they had that one Heisman contender for a couple of weeks that fell off the face of the earth all of a sudden. But Steve Adazio is out the door. He's got Florida State, UConn, and Wake Forest, and at best case scenario, he wins one of those games. So you can definitely see him leaving. And then at number 1, I've got Jim Mora, coach of UCLA. You can't be UCLA or USC, and we already touched on Clay Helton, thanks to Luke, but you can't be a UCLA or a USC and not go to a bowl game. And that's exactly what Jim Mora is preparing for here. I don't see them making it to a bowl game. I think USC is going to beat them late in the season, and that's going to be really hard because UCLA has some of the highest expectations of teams in the country, especially based on recent success. And I might add another coach in there that's pretty much in the same boat as him. I could do this as a 1A, 1B. Mark D'Antonio. He's in just about the exact same position. Based on his success last year, I don't think he gets fired, but you can't go to the college football playoff and then the following season lay an egg in just about every game. So I gave 4, but I would definitely say that Mora and D'Antonio are probably in the worst standing with their fan base.
Yeah, I was close to putting Jim Mora on my list as well. He's a solid pick. He hasn't done much at UCLA since he's been head coach. Also, he whenever they played Kansas State in the Alamo Bowl a few years ago, he famously refused to shake Bill Snyder's hand after the game. So I hope he gets fired and never coaches another game in his career.
That'd be great.
Disrespecting a legend like Bill Snyder. I hope that stains his legacy forever. But once again, great minds think alike. I took your pick.
You took all 3 of my picks
and I
in
took
order.
All of your picks.
In order is uncanny. But yes, you're right. Great minds think alike, and I think that's a big tell to the fact that those 3 coaches are probably out the door, and that Pitt is going to upset Clemson.
Yeah, watch for it, folks. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to make OSU's record look that much better. The quality win over Pittsburgh.
It might even make Michigan State's win or record look better.
Yeah, it will definitely help OSU as they, of course, continue on their run to the college football playoff, as I predicted, and this will just catapult them even further. I'm joking mostly, of course. Probably not going to happen. We'll just have to see till next year. Hopefully, the Cowboys can compete for the Big 12 title. They control their own destiny. So we'll see how that shakes out.
And Miles, one thing about your head coach I'd like to add just right before the end. Did you hear his quote about the length of games?
No. What did he say?
He's calling for 12-minute quarters instead of 15-minute quarters.
Wow.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I just want to see what you think about that.
Well, of course, I think it's bad to just go out and say you should do this or that without any research, but I think he may have a good point with the pace and quickness of games these days. It may be unsafe for the players to be out there facing or playing over 100 plays in a game on each side of the ball. Of course, there has to be a lot more research done into that, whether playing more plays increases your likelihood of injury. But Mike Gundy, he's always been on the cutting edge of new trends and new ways to keep his players safe, stand up for his players, including the rant. He was one of the first to have a no-contact day during the weekday of practices, so maybe this is his next big thing. He should probably promote this on his app, since he is the first college football coach to have his own app.
Miles, just an interesting thing I'd like to add here as well. If there were 12-minute quarters, the Alabama-LSU game would have barely had one touchdown. Jalen Hurts would have scored a touchdown with about 52 seconds to go in the entire game.
Yeah, pretty pathetic. It would have been much more dramatic that way.
That's true.
But still very pathetic. Yeah, it wouldn't. Maybe LSU and Alabama can play 15-minute quarters.
There you go.
Or maybe we want to reduce those to like 5 minutes, so we don't have to watch an hour of those games. That's what I would suggest for those two teams. All right. Well, once again, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Luke, for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. As always, thank you to my co-host Jordan Lunderman.
Always. I love doing it.
Special shout out, of course. We're thankful for his efforts every week. The unseen maestro of the show, Stephen Pangestu, our superb editor. Thank you for all the work you put in. But once again, this is Joe College Radio signing off for another week. Enjoy the week college football.